is just the cologne of life. I was once a man, but now I am David.
I'm Kirby.
I'm Katie.
I'm Jim.
I'm Madman Anthony.
I'm Damon.
Welcome to issue 155 of the Crimson Cowl Comic Club podcast. Each and every week, we meet here in this earthly realm to talk about comics. On this week's show, we will have weekly reviews for books, both new and very old. In our letters page, we will ask this very question.
Oh man, work is having a costume contest and you forgot. Which character do you call to bring you a quick costume that is guaranteed to win? That is the question.
So, let's start with our weekly reviews.
All right, I am here to talk about a brand new issue. It could not be any more brand new than today, which is the release of Slowpoke's issue number 1. This was a Kickstarter comic that just ended today, and we got our digital copies sent to the emails, and we'll get some physical copies shortly. Here is the synopsis. London James is a rebellious high school teenager ready to move on to the next phase of his life. The only thing standing in his way is a request from his best friend, Karate Carlos. Oh, and a bioengineered sloth who is now freakishly fast and out for blood. Okay, so I read the digital copy of Slowpoke's number 1. I saw them talk about it on the Comic Book Club podcast. Not this Comic Book Club podcast. This is the Crimson Cowl Comic Club podcast. But the creator, Steve Urena, was on there, and he was talking about basically sloths that murder people. And I'm like, sold. I'm like, I don't need to hear anything else. And so the Kickstarter went up, and there were some fun options for the backers and t-shirts and posters, as well as something special for issue number 2 that he plans to do in 2021. But issue 1 is out right now, and it's dealing with basically a high school field trip. It feels like it's going to be the last day of senior year for these group of friends, and they're going to this place that it does a bunch of like lab experiments and stuff, but also there's an amusement park within this place, and so it's a whole like Disneyland type of thing going on. We'll have some preview pages. If you're watching on the video, looks like we'll get some stuff there from Kirby's screen there. So yeah, this is a pretty fun comic. It's almost like if it's like a super bad type comedy. It's a mature rated comedy as far as the language goes, but it's this whole idea of these killer sloths that are basically on the loose, and there's a lot of gruesome deaths right in the first issue, and I think it has the pacing of a horror film. The way you're just, because you go into the book knowing that, all right, we're the zombie sloths, or we're going to see these murderous sloths, and it definitely does not disappoint once the action really starts to ramp up. But yeah, it's very comedic during the whole thing. I think the deaths and the kills are pretty fun in the sense of like, big splash moments of like, oh, that was awesome. And, seeing, certain scratches and decapitations and things happen. It heats up pretty quick. And the fact that the sloths are engineered to be fast really fits with the pacing of the story. I wasn't the only one that read this one. Kirby here has read it as well. What do you think?
I liked it. I just read it just in the past 10 minutes, so I gotta reread it down the line. But a little bit of the wording from the kids was a little hard to follow. But other than that, it's seeing one of the slowest mammals on Earth get the ability to have all that speed, and just you can understand why they're going crazy. And it's like, Being able to do never do before.
And you had said the speak. They're basically got like a teen slang going on. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, it's like I'm getting old, so it's like
Yeah, there's words that I'll,
days anymore.
yeah, there's words that I'll see that are in popular memes or Twitter hashtags and things like that. But yeah, I was in that same boat of like it's very noticeable about the way it's written and the creator. I mean, I think he's probably between my age and your age, Kirby, just based on the very little that I know about him. So I think he's definitely writing for that. It's not like it's a millennial, writing that or something. He's writing he's writing for those characters basically. But yeah, I would agree on that same point. But yeah, the deaths and stuff and we heard you laughing. If anybody in the pre-club hangout, if you heard Kirby laughing when other people were talking but not saying anything funny, I'm assuming it's because he was reading that comic. So
yeah, if you can just imagine the slow animal just being able to totally wipe out people. It's like it's fun.
Yeah, pretty enjoyable. I'm excited to get the physical copy so that I can reread it that way. And it's a different experience. I just was scrolling through it on the iPad, but I'm excited to get the page turns and all that stuff because it was done in the PDF form rather than a Comixology where you can do a panel to panel view. So it definitely was, it took the experience down a little bit, but I think once you get the physical copy there, I'm excited for that.
Yeah. And it was like that quick one, so it's like by the time you got halfway through it and they got to the main part of the sloss and stuff, you just wanted more. So yeah, I definitely want the second issue to get out.
Yeah, and that'll be the only downside, with the Kickstarter comic, just with the pacing of it. So it's not like we're going to get it next month or the month after that. It'll definitely be probably a while yet, but hey, that's where these creators start, and hopefully they can, get their name out there. And they had a very successful Kickstarter. Damon, you also backed it, but you have yet to read it, correct?
Correct. I'm actually looking for my email now to try and download the PDF, but I usually will wait until I get the physical copy just because I'm not into the
I was gonna, but mine finally came in because Anthony told me about it earlier today and I was looking for it.
Yeah, I figured with the Halloween drop, it was one of those where I'm like, I'm going to squeeze it right in there. But yeah, I am looking forward to, we could bring it up again in a couple weeks after you read it and stuff too. We can kind of dive into it a little more deeper if you want, but it's kind of almost a little preview. But so yeah, Slowpokes is the title. It's on Kickstarter. You may have to contact, I know he ordered extra issues. The initial campaign is over with, but if you check that out, you might be able to contact him and see if you can get your hands on one, or very much a lot of times when they do a second Kickstarter for issue 2, they'll have some tiers on there where you can get the first issue. And since it is a digital release as well, it might be easier for him to get some of the late comers when it comes to checking out the comic. But yep, Slowpokes on Kickstarter, zombie murderous sloths that run fast.
Question.
Yes.
If you have a sloth that moves fast, can you still call them a sloth?
Well, maybe issue 2 will dive into the correct category and what we're going to be calling them now, because you got Walking Dead, which we'll hear about later in the show. To us they're zombies, but to the Walking Dead world they're walkers. Have they ever said zombie in the book or the show or anything?
I don't believe so.
So yeah, maybe. But I think they've said. Did they say the sloth in this book? Did they actually say sloth?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just wondering if there's maybe a Walking Dead parallel there where we won't hear them say sloths. They'll just call them,
in the science boat.
Okay.
If they move fast, they're just a monkey.
Well, maybe that gets you back for issue number 2. We'll see. All right. But yep, so that is my first pick there. We'll jump over to Damon for the next one.
My first one was Werewolf by Night. I don't know if anybody else has picked this up or started reading it. I don't even remember if it came out last week or the week before, but of course, this would gravitate towards me. I love werewolves, and I never read any of the old Werewolf by Night stuff, and I purposely stayed away from looking into it so I could walk into this one completely blind. And for a first, I don't know how much it compares to the original, but for a first issue, it was pretty good. It introduces you to the characters. It starts off right off the bat with a view of the werewolf. I mean, right away on the third page, they're not gonna hide it or nothing. There it is, a full page panel of the werewolf. You learn more about him.
At night.
Yeah, at night. It's a slightly different mythology. It's not that he only can turn on the full moon. He can turn at any time, any night. Usually at night, he can turn into the werewolf. He can kind of control it. He can switch out of it. And you hear his backstory. It sounds like he's the son of the original Werewolf by Night. I'm not entirely sure. But they set up a situation where some bad things, I don't want to spoil it. I think Dr. Kurt's dad is reading this one. Some bad things are happening. He's only 17, so he's a little hesitant to be the hero. But they decide to go in, and it ends on a major WTF moment.
Major WTF moment?
Yep. You find out he is not the only thing that goes bump in the night. And I'd show you, it's a full page panel of some other nasties, but I don't want to spoil it for anyone that might be wanting to check this out so they can experience that panel the same as me. And I'm looking at it right now, and it's definitely a WTF type of moment. So it was a nice little intro. There's a little bit of action at the beginning, and then there's the story set up, and then it sounds like it's starting to get really going here for an intro leading into the issue number 2. This one is written by, his name is just Taboo, or Taboo, however you want to pronounce it, Taboo, and B. Earl, and the art's done by Scott Eaton. And the art is pretty good. I mean, pretty decent. The people are done nicely, and the creatures are certainly drawn pretty good.
And that writer, I think he's from the Black Eyed Peas, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't listen to them either, so I have no idea.
I remember hearing about that pre-pandemic, so I think that's who that is.
Well, maybe they'll come up with a soundtrack for the comic then.
Yeah, Taboo the rapper from Black Eyed Peas. So.
Okay.
Jaime Gomez is his name.
I once had a pet werewolf, but he kept burying my bones in the backyard, and I was forced to put him down.
No.
On that note, I think I'll put this issue down.
Alrighty, David. I mean, whatever your name is.
Well, I dug out from the bowels of my crypt this dusty, crusty old comic from 1966. It is Action Comics 4666. Oh, well, one too many sixes. 466. When I was alive and speaking to this club, I discussed the precursor to this issue, whereupon Superman had discovered that Batman and the Flash had been turned into children versions of their former selves. And in this issue, Lex Luthor is found to be the culprit and turns Superman, that is, into Superboy. And we find that the reasons behind this evil plot are because Lex Luthor had never forgiven Superboy from causing him to lose all of his hair. And so he reverted him to Superboy to exact his revenge because, well, after all, it was Superboy, not Superman, that had caused the loss of his hair. But in a silly twist, we find that he was not actually turned to Superboy. Lex Luthor actually just hypnotized him into believing he was, and it goes. The story goes to hell from there, and that's all there really is.
Excellent. All right, let's jump over to Kirby.
Checked out Itty Bitty Hellboy from Art and Franco. Art Baltazar.
Oh yeah.
Comics. This was really fun. It's great family friendly comic. Nice, decent drawings in there. You basically got Hellboy, Abe, Liz, and Roger. Everybody wants to take part in the super wacky fun times. When Hellboy's around, things just get ittier, bittier, funnier, and sillier. They basically go to this island of Rogers, and Hellboy knows most people over there. And there's someone else coming at following them into the island because they want to go after the hunt down a were-jaguar, which is this cute, fuzzy looking little dog thing that's supposed to be like a werewolf and a jaguar combined. And they're hunting it down thinking it's evil, and all it does is run around just licking everybody, sliming them. But then you got the Rogers. Roger has the only pair of underpants on the island. And Hellboy brings a bag of underpants for the rest of the Rogers, and you get to see what they do with it. But yeah, this was fun. You got little zombie plant creatures that come up out of the earth and stuff when Hellboy keeps doing things that he keeps being told not to do with his big goofy hand. And it's there's a giant hand on the island that he keeps interacting with, and every time he does, something happens. And there's other things on the island that when he touches them with his hand, things happen and stuff. Which I don't want to ruin those little story parts, but it's a very fun storyline, 4-issue run, and it's great to get your kids into Marvel Comics. This is a great way to do it. But yeah, it's fun for adults too. I had a blast reading it, so check it out.
Is that done by Marvel?
It's Marvel, well, Dark Horse Comics, but aren't these some Marvel characters? No. Okay, Dark Horse Comics. Sorry about that. I was thinking Hellboy was Marvel related,
But
yeah.
This comic is very marvelous. So
Yeah, a very marvelous comic.
And oddly, in my comic, Superman has been turned to Superboy, and in yours, Hellboy has been turned into Hellboy.
Or Roger.
all right, let's jump over to Katie.
Okay, so this week I have Exo Manowar Volume 2. This is from 2017 and is published by Valiant. The creative team is Matt Kint, Doug Braithwaite, and Diego Rodriguez. Okay, so Exo Manowar is about a man named Arik. He is from Earth, and a long time ago he was abducted by aliens and transported to another planet. And on this other planet, he is press ganged into fighting a war, and he does really well fighting the war and leading the conflict. So he gets promoted to general, and while he is leading his troops, he finds out that the war has been manufactured, and the people he thought were on the opposing side are actually not the bad guys in this, and that it's the Emperor who has manufactured this war. And Arik decides the Emperor's got to go. I really like this book, actually. The artwork is really good. I think it's very colorful. I enjoy it quite a bit. It's really interesting. I have volume 3 ordered. And yeah, that's about it. There's some cool alien designs. Oh, I should explain the armor. Okay, so it's called Exo Manowar because Arik wears some kind of sentient armor that only will go to the Manowar. And Arik has previously said, I'm not putting this armor on again, but the armor has other ideas in mind for him. And yes, of course, he's going to end up putting on the armor again. As much as he would like to live a peaceful life, that is not the universe's intent for him. I really like this book quite a bit. It's a pretty good series, I would say, so far. And if you've never checked out Valiant, I definitely recommend it. They have some pretty interesting characters. And this particular series of Exo Manowar is pretty well regarded within comics. And I think it's a good place to start. So Exo Manowar Volume 2. This is called The General. And that's that.
Cool. Thank you. Let's jump over to Jim.
All right. I have DC's Halloween anthology book. This year it is called The Doomed and the Damned. And we got a pretty creepy cover going on here. Let's see, get some glare off of there.
Ooh.
Again, 10 stories for $10, and this is actually one of the darker collection of stories overall. I mean, they've done some pretty dark stories individually, but as a collection, this is one of the darker collections that I've read in the over the years. And we have a lot of team ups, which is really cool. Instead of just individual character stories. Some of the unusual team ups we get are Beast Boy and Clarion the Witch Boy, with Raven, Bator and Darkseid. If you don't know, most of us are going to know who Darkseid is from. But Bator is another one of the new gods who is the demon of madness or insanity. So that was a fun.
You said madness, and I kind of went a little mad.
There was a story. Did you read this book? Okay, you're going to have to put this on your wish list because there is a Swamp Thing and Superman story where they face off against Clayface. So I'm sure you're going to want to read that.
It sounds right up my alley. Swamp alley.
And there's a team up or a book or a story involving Orphan and Orca, who I find is be one of the most ridiculous characters in DC. And if you don't know not familiar with Orca, she is a female. Basically, she's a female version of King Shark. She's a woman who has been turned into a killer whale. So, yeah, but again, wide variety of art. Most of the art is very Halloweeny, very dark looking, and then we come to stories that are very cartoonish, like this one with Green Lantern and the Demon Etrigan. And while the art isn't quite so cartoonish, the story with Darkseid and Bator absolutely is, because it involves a drinking contest between the two of them, which ends up with Darkseid getting blottoed. And this one was not such a dark story, but it was a very cute story. Aquaman and Frankenstein have a team up. And Aquaman is carrying around the baby, and he has to pass the baby off to Uncle Frank. So that was a good one.
You said Frankenstein. Did you say Frank Einstein, Madman, or Frankenstein?
Frankenstein.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Castle.
Ooh.
No, he's not here today. So yeah, good. Another good. Always a fun time for these special holiday anthologies, and this one does not disappoint. There we go.
Ooh.
There you go, Anthony.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right. Well, to keep it on the DC Halloween theme, I've got the what's this called? Legend of the Swamp Thing Halloween Spectacular. It's Halloween, and DC invites you to welcome Swamp Thing to your witching hour festivities. In this 48-page collection of all new stories, the Guardian of the Green reveals past lives and the unforgettable horrors that befall those who cross his path. From ancient Rome to present day, Swamp Thing stalks these ghostly and ghastly tales, all of which are best read by the light of a jack-o'-lantern. I read it by the light of my TV as I had something playing in the background. But yeah, so this was an all-new special. It's bookended by the story taking place in the Virginia swamp on Halloween, talking about a young boy that has gone missing in the swamp, which leads to obviously Swamp Thing in the story discovering this kid and basically trying to rescue him. And what's interesting, he's talking this beginning story, and it leads into all of the tales of Swamp Thing talking about his history. Now, my certain type of fiction, I don't get real crazy about, and basically saying anything that's like older than like the 1950s, I start to like fall asleep during. So we're jumping into like Roman times and things like that. So we're jumping into all these different kind of crazy stories. If you're into that kind of stuff, that's why I kind of brought it up. It's not normally my kind of bag, but there's a bunch of different short stories in here, just kind of talking, kind of take each creator kind of taking their own little take on what Swamp Thing means. In all these different settings throughout the centuries, basically. And so there's definitely some awesome creators here, some interesting tales, a bunch of different kind of artwork styles. So each story, they're separate, but also they're all being told, narrated by Swamp Thing as your horror host, if you will. And just kind of giving you some samples of the several different artists that are taking part in each story, but it is ending going back to that beginning story in the swamp back on Halloween. So it's and it's interesting, but you're catching up with that little boy many years into the future, I'll say that. So the story does kind of come full circle as far as the narration goes, and I really like the opening and the beginning stories. And like I said, the stuff in the middle is just, that's my own personal thing, where I'm just, when you get into ancient times and things like that, it's not really my bag. The Avengers did that with some of the the Avengers BC, and that's not normally my kind of thing. So anytime those stories happen, I just kind of read it real quick, and I just kind of basically want to get it over with. There are some cool things. I will point out this one. John Timms and Gabe Oladib. They did this awesome. Here's a pretty awesome take on Swamp Thing here. Just the design of that's cool. But yeah, ultimately, it's still a good book. I think a lot of more people would get some enjoyment out of it if you like those kind of ancient stories from centuries past. But yeah. If you're a Swamp Thing fan, I think you'll dig this. Cool back cover too. That at first I thought it was an ad for the CW re-airing of the DC Universe Swamp Thing show, but this is just a simple, sweet, awesome looking Swamp Thing cover, back cover rather. But yep, 48 page. Yes.
I did read that, and I was wondering, since you are kind of an expert on Swamp Thing, is that something that's been established, that Swamp Thing has existed prior to the current versions? Has he been a thing that's happened throughout history?
As I wouldn't call myself a Swamp Thing expert, but I do, I will accept it as a compliment just because I like, hold on, old Swampy over here. Not from my memory. I haven't read everything Swamp Thing, I would assume anytime they would do that is if somebody did like a one-shot story or, like an Elseworlds type of thing. But in my recent memory, I'm sure there's a lot of history that goes back, of the character, the guardian of the green and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure some people have done it. But some of this stuff I think feels very new to me, at least. And if I did read it at one point, I probably read it fast because I got bored with it or something. But yeah, the way they kind of introduced this, I wouldn't say it's a normal thing we're used to, as far as obviously as like Alec Holland, because he's definitely had moments throughout his life as Swamp Thing where he, different creators come on and the character isn't Alec Holland anymore, only just an essence of him, but he's not even, the human's not even in him anymore. So I'm sure there's some lore back there that'll kind of make it, that this would be canon in a sense.
And I really like the story where there was the Spanish conquistadors and they get lost on the island and basically the whole island turns into a Swamp Thing. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of fun ideas and things like that, and I think I would enjoy it a lot more on a second read. But ultimately, I guess I'm more based on a current timeline when it comes to that kind of stuff. But I think there is a lot here for fans though that do enjoy that kind of time setting. So yep, that is the Legend of the Swamp Thing Halloween Spectacular. 6 tales rooted in terror. Emphasis on rooted.
Yep.
All right, jump over to Damon for the next one. Audio.
Just checking. This is the Alien Original Screenplay Volume Issue 3. On the cover, you have what people know as the facehugger. That's what it looks like based on the original descriptions and the screenplay before we got what we got. This issue follows the movie pretty closely on this particular issue. This issue starts with the blood eating through. They tried to remove the facehugger from his face, and they discovered it has acid for blood, and it eats through the decks of the ship. This starts just with them trying to trace the acid flow, and they realized what was going on. And then, he wakes up, and they go to dinner, and then here's the famous chest burster scene. You can see them sitting around at the dinner table. All of a sudden, something goes wrong. Ow, it hurts. And then, boom, here's the start. In that scene, you can kind of see it leap across the table, which is what we've been waiting for.
Like a Last Supper scene.
Yeah, what does this alien look like? Unfortunately, we're going to have to wait till the next issue because this ends with them deciding to split up and try to track it, catch it, and blow it out of the airlock. And that's exactly where this one ends. And unlike the others, the page on the back for the next issue doesn't show anything. Like the page on the back of the previous issue showed what's on the front here, the facehugger. This one just shows a crew member crying. So, don't know. We're going to have to wait. I'm just dying to know what the original Alien was supposed to look like before H.R. Geiger got involved. So, it's still fun. It's still neat to see the different take on the movie. If you're a huge fan of Alien, you definitely need to check this out. You don't necessarily need to wait for all the singles. They already announced, the little hardcover that will go with the Alien 3 screenplay if you have that. But at some point, I'd pick it up if you're a big Alien fan. But the next issue will definitely tell all, because if the Alien looks kind of that might be real off-putting to try and finish it when you kind of already know what the story is. So the next issue will be the tell-all to see how it looks and how it goes from here.
Cool. And how many issues total?
I wanted to say there was only going to be 6.
Okay.
I could be wrong. 5 or 6, but
All right.
I don't know for sure.
All right. We'll jump over to the artist formerly known as David.
Well, something dead in my throat. But Anthony is not the only one that I know who's been drawn into a comic. I had a neighbor once that was drawn in, not a very old comic book, but it takes place in like the 1930s, I believe. I'm speaking of my good friend, Mr. Crypt. Yes, I've revisited Mr. Crypt #1 for Halloween. See, in 1932, my friend was struck by lightning in his grave, which brought him back into the living world. And so he's chased by people, and with their torches and their pitchforks and those types of things. We've all been there. So he dons a disguise. He wears some mortal clothes and a fake mustache, and this tells the tale of how he keeps losing the fake mustache, and then the villagers recognize him to be it's a skeleton. But as long as he wears the mustache, you can't tell. He looks as normal as you or me. So this is about his early adventures, where he meets his pet rat. He only has one. I know it's more common for us to have like just thousands of them, but he has one who he calls Baron Rat, and he feeds him cheese and things like that. And he gets himself a job at a dirty old library, where he can feel somewhat safe because the old batty librarian can't tell that he's just a skeleton. So anyways, it's a very entertaining tale, and I do recommend that anyone who is interested in fact-based comic books to go check out Mr. Crypt.
I love Mr. Crypt. I was so excited when I saw that on the list, and I'm like, wait, is there a new #1 that I missed? But it's good to know that my collection is still complete. All right, we're going to jump over to Kirby.
All right, check out the 5-issue run of Rotten Ruin. Basically a zombie series from the New York Times best-selling author Jonathan Mayberry. He's a multiple Bram Stoker Award winner. It's done by IDW. I'll give you a synopsis out of here. The zombie apocalypse was nearly 15 years ago. The dead rose, we fell. No one knows why. Everyone who dies for any reason rises as a mindless, shambling, flesh-eating ghoul. There are 7 billion zombies and 30,000 humans. The survivors of this apocalypse live in 9 small fenced-in towns along the Sierra Nevadas in Central California. Benny Amura is a 15-year-old who was a toddler during first night, the beginning of the end. His older half-brother, Tom, was a 20-year-old police cadet, and Tom rescued Benny after their parents were infected, and after many hardships, found other survivors and helped build Mountainside, the first of the 9 towns. Everything beyond the fence line is the great rotten ruin. At least that's what Benny and his friends thought until they saw the jumbo jet fly across the sky. Now Benny, his girlfriend, Nix, his best friend, Chong, and the feral girl, Lila, have set out to find that jet. Heading east, the group stumbles on a pack of zombies and must take shelter in an abandoned hospital nursery, which is full of all kinds of little zombie babies.
So what you're telling me is that in this comic we get Benny and the Jets, right?
Yep, pretty much.
Cool. Just wanted to double check.
But yeah, this was a fun story, nice artwork. Lots of zombies, but they come across a village and they go in there and check it out. And that village has a whole concept of how they're trying to rebuild and repopulate the earth and get things back up and running. And these four kind of don't really click with them, and they try to get out of there, and things ensue. And you can just imagine it's basically a lot like your Walking Dead concepts and stuff, that it's too early for them to be dealing with this in the beginning run. I'd rather see them focus more with the zombie parts, or at least go back maybe 10 years, like 5 years into this story, so we can see more of the zombie happening and stuff like that, instead of worrying about what they're going to do already to fix the future and all that and get the humans back up and running. It's like, it's getting too, that's the part where they lost me with The Walking Dead, once it just got basically focused on all the different jackasses out in the world that they got to deal with and different factions and all that. And I'd rather just focus on people taking out the zombies and dealing with normal life that way. But yeah, it's a good story. It's good artwork.
And I don't remember the Walking Dead crew coming across like Johnny Knoxville and all them though. You said they crossed over with Jackass? Is that what it was?
Yeah, wasn't that the ones that ate everybody?
Oh yeah, okay, that's right. Yep, I do remember now.
Just played around in their park.
Yep. All right. Good. We will jump over to Jim for the next one.
All right. I have a very thematically typed title called The Vein. This is a story of a young FBI agent who is tasked with following up on a string of robberies that's been growing across the country. And then we see also the people perpetrating those robberies across the country. And it turns out that they're not just robbing banks, they're robbing blood banks. And they are and the important part is this is happening right before on the eve of basically the bombing of Pearl Harbor. So as Pearl Harbor happens, he's called back to Washington, D.C. And he's like thinking that he's not doing enough good as a FBI agent. He's going to go and enlist in the war. And when he's recalled to D.C., he enters the director's office, and he is teamed up with these four that have been going across the country, and is introduced to them as vampires, and they are interested in enlisting, and they want to go to Germany and kill Nazis. So I think this is going to be a fun series to see what four vampires, and it's a unusual group of people because we have a white woman, a black woman, a white man, and a black man, and they're couples, but the couples are the two men and the two women. So in 1944, what do these couples of vampires, how are they going to get along, and how are they going to deal with the war? That's going to be I think it's going to be an interesting story. So this is a different take on vampires from, let's see, what is it? Rahal, Pearson, and Stressing by Oni Press.
All right, cool. All right, my next title here is Stranger Things, the Halloween Special. It's Halloween night in Hawkins, Indiana, and Will, Mike, Lucas, and Dustin gather in Castle Byers to eat candy and scare each other with a spooky story, revealing the quaint town's deepest kept secret, the Child Eater of Hawkins. This is the tie-in comic with the popular Netflix show Stranger Things, and this takes place about days before we meet our characters in the very first season. So this is pre-11. We don't see her in the story at all. This is pretty cool. The likeness I really like in here. This is written by Michael Morrissey and art by Todor Histrov and colors by Chris O'Halloran. Yeah, so this is dealing with the fact that the boys are all kind of having a little campfire and they're trying to spook each other with these scary stories. And there's kind of some teasing going on that they're not really frightened by the stories that are being told. But that is where Will decides he has a story, but he tells everyone, you have to promise to never repeat this story to anyone ever. And this is about the story of the child eater going back 20 years prior to their current timeline. And it is dealing with the fact that there are a bunch of missing kids. There ends up being 4 missing kids exactly, and finding out that even going back further in the lore of this horror story is that there always ends up being 8 kids that go missing until this child eater is basically satisfied. So when they round up 4 kids, there are 4 different kids that are telling the story about the past. So it's almost like an Inception style story, but we keep going back into the past. So now these kids from the 60s are talking about there's only 4 kids left. And wait, we're 4 kids in a library doing a school project. And now we start hearing crazy noises and kids are being picked off one by one. And they know that, there's going to be 8 total until they are, till that the child eater is satisfied. And they only know that from the legend that comes before them. So every 20 years or so, there are a group of kids that are talking about this tale. And once again, coming full circle back to the kids that we know from the Stranger Things Netflix show. This is a very fun one-off tale. I think if you've been living in a cave or the Upside Down and you've never seen Stranger Things, I think this still serves as a great story because it's a real simple premise of, kind of like an Are You Afraid of the Dark type of scenario of kids telling scary tales. And we'll find out, we know a lot of things happen in Hawkins, Indiana. There was some real supernatural stuff that isn't just stories. So we'll find out if you read this to see if this is a true tale to scare his friends or a fake tale to scare his friends. We'll find out if it's real or fake if you read this one shot. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I really dug it. And I'll give you one little tease of the man-eater, child-eater character. Sort of like a Swamp Thing physique with a bunch of crazy tentacles and stuff kind of coming out of them there. So yeah, it's a pretty cool looking one. But thought the art was great, the writing's perfect. Really enjoyed Stranger Things, the Halloween special. This is the Francesco Francavilla cover, because anytime he does a variant cover in the spooky realm, I usually have to get it. So
I believe it's a true story. I think I know that guy, and I've seen many strange and supernatural things.
Well, there you have it. I didn't know we had one of his friends here today. So good. We will move on to Damon for the next one.
Okay, I decided to pick up Namite. As an interesting zombie version of Red Sonja. I suppose I should move my hand so you can see Dynamite. This is a 5-issue run. This is issue number 1. It just came out, I think, a week or 2 ago. I don't remember. This is going to have all of Dynamite's characters in it, supposedly. And I do not know what to make of this. It's very confusing. It jumps around a lot. I wasn't even used to some of these characters. For instance, there's John Carter is in here, which I thought was actually a Marvel character, but nope, he's in here. And he's going back to Mars. You have Red Sonja in here. You have Vampirella in here. and I think this one guy who is like, I don't know what his name is, but he reminds me of like a Superman type of dude. Would be nice. I should start writing this down so I can just tell you without having to be whatever. So some woman named Deja, who I think was also like the princess or something on Mars. At any rate, each character has like a 2 or 3 page story, and they're not really connected yet, except that they all end in what appears to be zombies. For instance, here's Red Sonja's page. See her at the bottom, and this dude turns into what appears to be a murderous zombie type. That is occurring in every one's little story arc. So I'm assuming as this progresses, they're all going to be connected. And I know Kirby, he's a huge Chaos and Dynamite fan. He'd love the last panel because I think he knows who that is.
Smiley.
Evil Ernie's button. So it looks like Evil Ernie and the button are going to make their appearances in the next issue. So it's going to be, I think, maybe like a deceased. There's something dealing with zombies that are going across the whole universe. It's affecting every character in the Dynamite universe. And it'll be cool to come together to fight it. What did you say?
It's supposed to be basically like Marvel Zombies did and Deceased, where the whole franchise basically gets zombified.
Did you see that cover one more time?
What's that?
Zombie Red Sonja, right? Reminds me a bit of one of my own corpse brides back in her younger years when she had a little bit more flesh on her bones.
One thing I thought that was kind of neat with this was the one issue that Dynamite really threw behind, and they had like 70 different covers for their first issue. And normally they save it for like a deluxe edition hardcover, but the last couple pages are pictures of all of their different covers. So you can see all the different covers that you would have had to pick from if you wanted. Some of these are chase pictures.
I got the bat with the bat symbol behind it.
Yeah, I mean, there's some cool ones. There's like several like comic exclusives. Some of the artists that I recognize, like Sun Kumanaki, if I'm pronouncing her name right, I'm kind of turning into a fan of hers. Her cover has it's this one right here. You can tell she's really good with people's faces when she does her artwork. That's the Vampirella cover. I went myself. I'm kind of like I like Vampirella, but I also like Red Sonja and this like melting flesh you can see on her arms, and then the zombified look taking over on her head. I thought that was a cool cover, so I just went with the cover A. But right now, I'm not sure what to make of it. It's all going to depend on how the series progresses. But it would be cool to see like Red Sonja, Evil Ernie, Vampirella all fighting. I'm hoping. I forget her name. Chastity. I'm hoping she makes an appearance, and it'd be cool to get them all in the same book. So I don't have an opinion just yet. We'll have to wait and see what happens in Dynamite #2 when that comes out.
And they already started one-shot off-branch ones I see in this next catalog and stuff. So,
well, that wouldn't surprise me.
But I have an opinion. Vampirella, she could suck my blood if I had any.
It is a family show here. Settle down.
I actually cannot respond to that on a PG rating, so I am just going to pass it on to the next.
And speaking of next, that will be you, Dark Sir.
Yes. As I was digging around through the Alterna Comics coffin, I also came across an old favorite. Going back to the very first issue. It came out on a Wednesday. we all know and love these comics. We of course discuss these as a club, and so I revisited the very first issue. There have been so many great stories in these that I had to go back and read the very first one. Yeah, unfortunately, it keeps disappearing from this earthly realm, and there it is again. Oh, it's gone. I can barely read it. Luckily, I can see. I have double vision. I can see both of this realm and that of the dead. It has some great stories. Some are horrific and some are comedic. There's some are sci-fi, and they have just a lot of different things all packed into one anthology comic book series. Reading this, I would like to go back and listen to when we first discussed it to see what everybody's favorites were. I'd be interested to see if my own had stayed the same after giving it a new, fresh read. I know some of them, like Exilium here, it turned into, this was like an introduction to its own comic, which came out later. And some of them were ongoing, like Mr. Crypt. Mr. Crypt always appears, and it came out on a Wednesday. So always nice to see him. There's some fantasy tales like The End of a Beginning, which had that nine-tailed fox woman thing. But overall, I thought it was very interesting to go back and reread these. I had forgotten many of these stories. So again, like any back issues, it is nice to go back and read them again and get a new, fresher perspective on the stories that you've read and forgotten. It's been such a long time. Again, I've forgotten many of these, so it was very refreshing to go back and reread them. It was like reading something familiar yet new.
Okay, good. All right, I think I am next for the next one here. A little chilling adventure, if you will. This is the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina presents Madam Satan issue.
Oh, Madam Satan! Madam Satan!
Man, I didn't know that our horror host here knew everybody in these comic books, but it makes sense. All right, from the world of the hit series Chilling Adventures of Sabrina comes the Madam Satan. The Queen of Hell has had enough playing second fiddle to the devil and is ready to take matters into her own hands. Will Madam Satan prove herself to be the most powerful being of the underworld? Find out in this terrifying one-shot tale from the team of superstar writer Elliot Ray Hall and artist Julius Ota. All right, I'm a big fan of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which started off with Roberto Aguirre Sacasa as well as Robert Hack. This was the series. This is presented in the hardcover format, which has the cover to the Netflix characters, but it is the original, I think, 8 or 9 issues of the original Chilling Adventures of Sabrina that inspired that show. So this is a one-shot spinning out of that, kind of giving a little history, kind of catching up with Madam Satan. There's a scene in here in the opening that's kind of dealing with her, with everybody basically kneeling and praising before her, like we saw here earlier from our horror host. And she's kind of bored with the job. They're all kind of making their pleas, and you can just see that she's just annoyed by them. And but yeah, we get a little history as she kind of goes on a little journey throughout. What's cool about this, there's a lot of I think it's a good sell for the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina comic if you've never read it. I think there's a lot of questions if this is your first taste into the world, whether you've seen the show or the comic, and if you haven't seen them, I think you could appreciate a lot of the art and the storytelling, but ultimately, I think it's going to leave you with a lot of questions. I think it's really going to set the tone if you like these kind of stories or not. So this could be your one shot, jump in to kind of see if you like the tone of things. But yeah, you kind of you get a little history of her becoming Madam Satan, and you see a little bit of Sabrina in here, but it's mostly focusing on that. And it's kind of, this is the one thing out of this series that everyone's wanting it to come back, the Sabrina show, the comic series. But with the show's success, the guy who wrote the comic is the guy that's running that show in Riverdale and did the Katie Keene show, and he's doing a bunch of other things too that he's got stirring the pot over in the television realm. So he's a very busy guy, and it's unfortunate we're probably not going to get that, if not for years, probably after these shows run their course. But I like the idea of the other creators coming in and playing in that established world. And I think that while everyone would wish Robert Hack and Roberto would return with the Sabrina series, I think they're almost at the point where they should allow some of these other creators, much like the ones that I mentioned here, to kind of take the reins. I think Robert Hack would be one that I'm sure he would probably return for the art. He does the cover that I got here. And actually, while we were talking, I just got an alert because Robert Hack was doing a Halloween art drop. He does all of his original work on these like wood panel type things, and when I looked on there, all of them were mostly claimed because they go pretty quick. So he's one that I'm always kind of watching to get his art style, and I think he would be one that would probably be willing to return, but he might have his own personal connection with the writer and maybe would wait to bring the old gang back together. But I think if they do more things like this, allow us to do some one-shots, mini-series, let more people play in this world, this is a good example that it can be done and we can move on rather than just sitting and waiting for a series that'll probably never resume. But having said that, I do highly recommend the Sabrina, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, recently collected in hardcover, takes place in the 60s. This is probably some of the darkest stuff I've read, and that, and especially it's involving Sabrina. And I'm sure Damon and Kirby have probably read some pretty dark stuff based on, some of the stuff they brought to the table. And our horror host, too. I mean, he lives this day in and day out. Is that correct?
I don't live it anymore.
But I'm sure you just lie awake from all the memories yet, maybe?
Yes, good times.
But yeah, this is just the art's great, the horror is great, and it's just a fun, risky take on the Sabrina as we know. And if you pick up this hardcover collection, you actually get the original Madam Satan origin story, which took place in the early 40s. I want to say it was 41 or 42, 1941, where we first saw Madam Satan actually in Archie Comics. So it wasn't something that was created for this modern take. So we see that that version in there. And then they also show a bunch of concept art and sketches, both of Madam Satan and Sabrina. Once again, this is in the hardcover, not the one shot I just reviewed, but this is just a further sell. And then this also includes the first tale of Sabrina in Archie Comics as well, which I think was the 60s or the 70s. 1962 is where that first occurred. But yep, big fan of Madam Satan. You read it too there, Kirby?
Yep.
It
was a fun read. I like the depiction of her, and is the evil woman that is definitely not satisfied at any given time with what she ever does. But yeah, it's a good start to the whole Sabrina and everything. It just goes in well.
Good. All right, so that'll do it for that one. Let's jump over to what we mentioned earlier with Damon and The Walking Dead.
Yes, I am a huge fan of the TV show, and I have never read the comics. The black and white kind of scared me away. Now I'm slowly starting to get into black and white, so I might revisit them. It was on my mind until I realized they're redoing them with these Walking Dead Deluxe. This is the first issue. Um, it is basically they're starting over with issue number 1, and they're reprinting them this time in full color. So this is my first trip into a Walking Dead comic book, and it starts basically just like the first episode of the TV show, with Rick waking up in the hospital, not knowing what is going on. The zombies are pretty cool. It is pretty gruesome and graphic. For instance, here's in the hospital where Rick wakes up and opens the wrong door. I'm sure many of you have probably read Walking Dead along the way, so I'm not saying anything new here. I don't need to go into the story. If you're fans of it, you've either seen the show or read the comics, so you know what the story is about. It's neat to see this in full color. As I'm reading it, it's great and everything, but after seeing the whole show and kind of knowing where it goes, I don't know how many I'm going to dive in. I know I got the next couple issues on order, and I might wait to see if they release these in like an omnibus or a compendium or something, like they have with the black and whites. But it's definitely nice seeing them in color and giving someone like me, who's not the biggest fan yet of black and white, a chance to dip in and check them out. It looks pretty good. The color is good. There's blood. There's everything you would expect. I did not disappoint. It was exactly what I was expecting, picking this up and diving into it. Yeah, my only complaint is it wasn't long enough. I was hoping he'd actually get to Atlanta and you'd see, him diving in, and I want to see how he meets some of the characters and see if it's the same as the show. But other than that, it was a fun read.
Well, I don't want to give much away. It does veer from the show, or the show veers from it.
Right.
But then there are things that connect the two, and there's things that are the same, and there's the things that are different, and there's the things that are the same yet different. And of course, now we all know, those who have read the entire series know how it ends. I will say that there was a theory from the very start that Rick was just having a beautiful dream.
I really hope that's not how it ends. Because if he wakes up and everything is happy-go-lucky, I would be, after reading 184, 187 episodes, and it turns out to just be a dream.
Well, not happy-go-lucky. He's still laying in his hospital bed. He just had a dream while laying there.
Oh, man. Now I'm going to have to look into it, you just to make sure that's not it. That would just be horrible.
No. It'll be just read along. The ending will shock you. It won't be what you're expecting.
I think if he pulls back that hood,
unless you're expecting the way that it ends, and then it will be actually what you're expecting.
Well, thanks for clearing that up.
I think if we pull back that hood, we'll find out that's Robert Kirkman. Actually, he just is that right? Will you do? Wait, here we go. Oh, no, it's not. Unless he just trimmed his beard. So, yeah. All right. I thought he did a disappearing act for a second there. His left side of his body was, oh boy, no head. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, I think I just saw Spawn. Wait, no. So, Damon, you actually have the last title, so you can go ahead with that one.
Okay.
So
well, I wish I could end it on a high note. Instead, we're going to end it on a big steamy turd. This is the last issue of the conspiracy series. And what a disappointment. This one is called Planet X. I was a fan of Zenoscope's Conspiracy, the first run, which dealt with the Illuminati, and all 6 issues were kind of connected, but each one dealt with a different little conspiracy. These 6 issues all dealt with aliens and the Men in Black and Area 51. I believe the last episode was the Black Knight satellite that people believe are up there. This kind of ties them all together. Maybe it's because of all the delays. I'm not remembering certain things from the first couple of issues. But basically, spoilers. If you don't want to know, cover your ears. This all ends in a really weird way. It's kind of cheap, and it's a sellout. All the characters from the previous 5 issues wake up in an alien spaceship, which is actually what is the Black Knight satellite, an alien spaceship. And they find out that they're going to a different planet millions of light years away called Planet X to be auctioned off as food or slaves or what have you to aliens. In fact, here's a nice shot from the Black Knight satellite where you can see out at the planet they're approaching. You can see all the pods with the humans on it. And they try to hide. Their plan is they're going to hide. And when the ship goes back to Earth to reload for another wave, they're going to escape. But their plan is foiled. And of course, it ends with the end ? So I'm sure there'll probably be another conspiracy arc. But this one, as much as I was looking forward to the Alien and Men in Black and Area 51 theme, they just kind of all rushed it with this last episode, and it was really off-putting.
Well, at least it didn't end with somebody waking up from a dream in the hospital.
No, they just woke up in a plane on the way to get eaten.
Yeah, one of those guys looked like Rick Grimes, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was him.
That was the last episode of the run or something? I thought that was a one-shot.
No, they don't say conspiracy 1, 2, 3, and 4. It went like conspiracy Area 51, conspiracy Men in Black, conspiracy Black Knight satellite, and then conspiracy Planet X is the final one. So while they don't use the numbers, instead of saying 1, 2, 3, and 4, they use a different theory.
All right, because I bought that issue just thinking it was a one-shot. Wish I would have heard your review before that.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Planet X is basically conspiracy number 6.
All right.
But you're not missing anything. I basically just summed up the whole series for you, and it's not really, I don't know, not as good as the first one. And I'll just leave it at that.
All right, we've got one final segment, so we're going to jump over to the letters page. Save. All right.
And I actually do have a little bit of news that I'd like to share with everybody too.
Ooh. Okay, we are recording for audio. All right, here we go. Welcome to the letters page, everybody. We have a question that we're all going to go around and answer. This one is, oh crap, work is having a costume contest and you forgot. Which character do you call up to bring you a quick costume that is guaranteed to win? Well, Jacob of Jacob's Birthday Battles fame actually wrote in with an answer, so I'm going to kick it off with his.
Opinion?
He's written this here. He goes, Batman would be a little cliche, or I feel like Rocket Raccoon would be clutch. His MacGyver-ish weapon creating abilities would cross over well for cosplay. So yeah, he's going with Rocket Raccoon there as his answer. I will give mine at the end of the round, so we'll jump over to Damon if you have an answer for this.
I guess I would call upon a Silver Surfer to take me to a galaxy far, far away to talk to a marshal of a small town to give me the armor to Boba Fett.
Wow, yeah.
Because walking into a costume contest with a real live rocket pack on your back and a missile and a flamethrower on your wrist gauntlet is sure to impress the ladies and get me entry and a win in the costume contest.
I think it's justified.
Yeah, there was absolutely no spoilers or nothing involved with that either.
All right, so we will jump over to our creepy host over there.
Well, of course, I call my undertaker to prepare my outfit for all of my big events. But if we're talking fictional comic book types, well, perhaps the X-Men, because they have that Shi'ar technology, which allows them to create any costume that you can think of. Not to be mistaken with the one that was in the Battle World in that one story there where Peter Parker got his black costume because that wasn't the right machine. Although it would be kind of cool to have one of those costumes for Halloween or really any time. So we'll say the X-Men. Yes.
Great answer. Let's jump over to Kirby.
I would have to get Venomized. It's like to have the whole symbiote outfit, and then little hands could come out and rip everybody else's outfits off, and I'd win the contest, no problem.
I think he just wants to rip everybody's costumes off for some reason.
Oh, yeah. Birthday suit time.
All right, Katie.
Okay, so I'm going to have Professor McGonagall make me a costume because she is super good at transfiguration. So I could just hand her like whatever I had in my purse, and then she could wave her wand, and then she would give me a cool costume. And she always likes to be like super no nonsense, but I think behind that she's like super cool and chill, so she'd probably enjoy it. So
I would be willing to donate some of my hair for a little concoction.
oh, thank you. I'll put you guys in touch.
Good. Jim.
Well, I kind of read that wrong because who are you going to call to bring you a costume? I didn't think it was going to have to be their own costume.
It could be or it can't
be. So I think I'm going to call the Flash because he can bring any costume I want within half a second or whatever. So I'm going to say, okay, bring me the Justice League and do the switches on the fly during the course of the party. So I can be the entire Justice League.
There you go. That's a good answer. I'm going with something a little outside the box. Something that, based on past experience, I was thinking what could really win over a crowd. Something that would really get people, really draw a lot of attention to me. I definitely have past history with a costume of such, of this choice. I would actually contact Selena Kyle, Catwoman, and ask if I could have her Joelle Jones design wedding dress.
Oh.
Because I've once worn the dress of one of my friend's wives, and when I don't know if I used the right plurals there. This friend only has one wife.
Presumably.
Maybe she knows about.
That you know of.
Undead Bride of Red Sonja or something. But yeah, I would wear Selena Kyle's wedding dress from the Tom King Batman run there, designed by Joelle Jones, because we all know I already can wear a dress and rock the heck out of it. So, all right, that will do it. No further questions, Your Honor. Okay. That's going to wrap it up for this issue of the Crimson Cowl Comic Club podcast. Next week, we are going to do 2 club picks. We're going to have Batman, The Three Jokers, issue number 3, as well as another issue number 3, X-Ray Robot. And, this is a really good page. You should probably check out the podcast next week to see what page I'm talking about. So we're going to talk about those as our club discussion, as well as some weekly picks, and I believe the Marvel and DC previews, selections for products coming out in January and beyond. So
I want to wish everybody a very happy Halloween as we celebrate this spooky holiday. This entire time, I've been Mad Manthony.
I've been sitting here, just realized I forgot to think of something cool to say.
I've had 1 foot out of the grave.
I've been Roger.
I'm a Hogwarts dropout.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
R.I.P. Sean Connery.
To be continued.